we're going to be installing a classic auto air climate control system in an early 70s Mopar A body, and I'll try to show step by step as much as I can. I'm not real good at filming everything that I do, so I'll hit the major things on it. Things like I've already got the fan off. I don't think you need to be told how to do that. And the bottom pulley is on. And with the classic auto air system, the bottom pulley is for if your car never had air conditioning. The way the pulley is designed is really nice because the bottom pulley has 6 bolts in it, and the new classic auto air pulley has 3 bolts, but it skips every other bolt, and it fits over the top of the bolt heads and goes down flush against the original bottom pulley. And then you just put the longer bolts in it, and to go through the classic auto air pulley and through your original bottom pulley, and it all bolts up really nice. It's actually really easy. Okay, on with the adventure. Here we go. Okay, here we are with the bottom pulley on. Obviously, it's the shiny new black one, and it fit really well. Went on there really easy. I did it from the top. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, here, let me fix the camera a little bit here. Next thing we need to do is pull the radiator hose, the overflow hose, and I don't think I'll need to take the bottom radiator hose loose, but I want to get this one off just so I can move the radiator back a little ways, because you have to fit the condenser for the AC system between the radiator and the radiator support. So we'll get on that. See if I can do this without destroying the little hose there. Ooh, perfect fit. I'm using an open end wrench to push this hose off the fitting. There we go. And we'll set that aside. See that curve in the hose? Makes it fit real nice right there, because they put the drain on the wrong side of the cap. But there's a piece of galvanized wire in here. I put it inside the hose and then just bent it the shape I wanted it to be. And the wire isn't enough to stop flow. It just makes the hose keep its shape. It works really good. Okay, so I'll get this all drained and loose from the car, and then we'll see you in a minute. Okay, this is the condenser installation. Okay, now you'll see that I've got the condenser sitting here lightly. I found out that what it does is it pretty much sits on the lip down there in front of the radiator. So I put a piece of, I took a piece of pipe insulation and cut a strip out of it and used black 3M leather strip adhesive and glued it to the bottom. And we're going to put this in now. Got to follow the instructions exactly on where things go, or it doesn't want to fit quite right. And it goes in like that, and then sits right on that little lip down there for the moment. And then we'll get that secured in there, and I think we're ready to hook up the tubing that runs through. If you look down here, it comes through the hole that is already in the firewall, where the headlight wires come through. It's going to come through right there and run along the fender over to the box. Okay, now the tubes are in. They're connected to the condenser. I had to do a little bit of minor tweaking on the aluminum tubes. Not bad at all, but they come right through the hole right there. And what I'll do is I'll put some piece of heater hose around these where they touch the metal here. So that should work out just fine. Okay, now I want to leave everything loose because I don't, I want to be able to settle everything in once it's the whole under hood thing is all together. So I'm going to leave everything loose for now. Something I noticed too is when I took the end plug out of the condenser, it had a vacuum in it. And I remember them saying in the instructions, if you take those plugs out and there isn't a vacuum in the devices, apparently even in the dryer there's a vacuum, that you need to make sure that the unit is okay and that it actually does hold pressure. But taking those plugs out and hearing it go whoosh, that's a pretty satisfying feeling as far as sealing goes. Okay, anyway, the next thing will be the compressor on the engine, and we'll come back when we've got all that ready to go. Well, it was a bit of a battle for spacing. I'm going to have to do something with those ugly nuts I used for spacers right there between the plate and the compressor. But everything seemed to line up really well after that. I don't know what the deal was with that, but it sure didn't work. But there's our alignment right there. And down to the bottom pulley. Everything looks really good. Okay, that's what you're supposed to turn 15 or 20 times by hand. And I got the dryer connected up. There's no O-rings in any of this yet. It's all just loose fit. So yeah, I gotta make a bracket from the back of the compressor to the intake. It'll be right under that fuel line where it mounts, and then right here on this ear of the compressor. And that should set it up real nice. Should work really good. And I think I'm about done with that setup out here. Looks pretty good. All right then. Well, everything out here is buttoned up, ready to go. Everything's nice and straight. No interference anywhere. One thing I did do that's not in the instructions is I used a piece of this foam pipe insulation between the radiator and the brackets for the condenser. It was a little bit rattly the way they said to do it, to pinch it in there between them. So a couple pieces of this about that big, I guess, on all four corners, and all nice and tight and quiet. All right, well, next step is to install the interior stuff, the box and hoses and everything. Well, today is to get the old heater box out, and apparently you're supposed to move the kick panel, remove the kick panel and the door sill over there, and I'll clean up a little bit of the wiring here as I go and rearrange things a little bit. First thing really that I have to do is get out there and unhook the original heater hoses. I've already dropped the water out of it. Yeah, in the process of this whole thing, I am just using water, and I'll put coolant in it when it goes back together. But for right now, it's time to get started on the interior heating box. Get that thing out of there. And I'm not bleeding anywhere. You know, something I thought I'd mention here is they give you this plate. Let me get the phone down here where you can see it. They give you this plate to block off the fresh air inlet, and it has some kind of cheesy foam that seals against the body metal. And I pulled all that off and used much better quality foam sealer between that and the body. And I wasn't real comfortable without going around the edge of it with some caulking, just to make sure. And I went around the screw heads too. You can see the little spots there. Anyway, on with the job. One thing I gotta say about having all this stuff out of the dash is it made it a lot easier to route the vent hoses and everything. Okay, all done. All wrapped up and ready to go. I've tested it already and everything works like it's supposed to. And yes, that is GM HEI ignition. Got the compressor in there. You can see the bracket back there behind it with the idler pulley on it. And behind the bracket, you'll see spacers down there that go through. Make that plate parallel with the pulleys. Got all my hoses routed. Everything done. It's the firewall block-off plate where the old heater came out. Got the interior all put back together. A few issues here and there. If I had to say, I think the interior part of it is probably the hardest part of the whole thing. Because as you might have seen, I had to tear out all this stuff. Not just for the AC, but I wanted to do some wiring updates and things like that. Here's my control panel. I tried to get a control panel that would kind of fit in that area, but Classic Auto Air didn't have anything, so I just had them send me just the rotary knobs with the decals that go behind the knobs. And then I made the carbon fiber faceplate. And I have a little bit of hose showing down there. Not too bad. I think I'm okay with that. Got all the under dash vents in. There was a fourth vent. There's 3 in there. And you can see the bottom of the new box. It sticks down a little bit more, maybe. The fourth vent, there's no way to get that on the other side of the steering wheel, not with the fuse box and a speaker over there and all that. So I just, I made the fourth hose just come out down here, right up under here. It just kind of faces down at the hump and back a little bit. That should be okay. It's going to dump air anyway, doesn't really matter. The knobs are variable. Say, for example, you wanted to go from vents to defrost. Well, you can do that, but you can put it part way in between and it'll do vents and defrost. It's the same way with the defrost and the floor. Okay, so this knob here is on, off, and speed control. This one is where the air is coming out of, hot or cold. You could actually air condition your windshield with the defrosters if you wanted. And then the far right knob is cold and hot, and it's also variable. So if I put it halfway in between, it'll stay that temperature in the vehicle all the time. So it is a climate control system. It's not just heat or air. Worked out really good. One issue was there's a mounting bracket that goes on the box that's up here, and it's supposed to go up and screw to the underside of the cowl. Well, I think it's about right here. So there's just almost no way without a right angle drill to get in there and drill a screw hole. Plus the bracket didn't come within 2 inches of the cowl anyway. So what I did was I flipped that bracket upside down and I rebent it, and it's bolted to the bottom of the dash down here now instead of bolted up here to the heater air box. That worked out just fine. So it's all back together. Everything's good and everything works. I have 40-degree air now, and the heat always worked killer. Used to be it would take a couple of miles of driving before the heat would start blowing, but this thing, I don't know, I'm thinking like 4 blocks and it's already starting to blow warm air, and it'll run you out easily without even being on high. So it works really good. Another thing is I wanted to mention is the defroster vents. I guess there's not really a lot of point in video in it, but the defroster vent hoses worked really good. They fit those defrosters perfect. It would be a really good idea to hold it down with your hand on top while you're attaching the hose. You might break off your mounting points or something on there. Okay, well, I think that's about it. Car's all done, all ready to go. Runs great. And that's the results of the classic auto air install. Well, now that it's all done and everything, there are a couple of things I'd like to address on it. Is a couple of pros and cons, I guess you would call it. For one thing, let me tell you right up front that this kit was technically made for a 72 dart, and we're putting in it at a 73. So there were little differences, very, very small ones. One of them was that there is 2 7/16 mounting bolts that go between the AC unit and the firewall, and only one of the bolt holes lined up. Very likely the difference between 72 and 73, but I just let it go at that because I think a 7/16 bolt plus the bracket between the unit and the dash, I don't think there will be any problems with it moving around or anything. The other one was, I think I already mentioned the bracket that goes between the unit and the firewall, or the unit and the dash, that when it was fitted up to the unit under the dash, the top mount in the instructions, it says to mount that to the inside of the cowl. So you would go from the heater box up and then mount it to the inside face of the cowl. And not only was that really hard to get to on the 73, because it's right behind a section of the dash that's fairly close to that area on the cowl, is that it didn't reach the cowl. It was about 2 inches away from it. So again, like I said, could be the difference between the 72 and 73 cars. The other one, let's see, what was that? Oh, where the hoses and everything come through, this is a pro. Where the hoses for the AC and the heater come through, they did fit exactly through the old blower motor hole. It worked out really good there, no problems at all. And then I also think I showed and mentioned the glove box. I was able to use my existing glove box just by cutting out about 1.5 inches of the lower rear corner of it. But I wanted to put the ECU for the AC heat unit in the glove box anyway, so that pretty much blocks that area. I'll Gorilla Tape or something in the back of it, so little things that I might put in there won't fall through. Let's see. The only other issue that I can think of that I had with it was, well, two issues now that I think about it, is one of them was the way they said to put the condenser between the radiator and the core support, and that it was kind of rattly in there, so I didn't really like that. But a little bit of foam padding in between brackets and things, that worked out just fine, no problems at all. The other one was that once the mounting plate, once the bottom pulley and the idler pulley and the mounting plate were mounted, the bottom pulley and the idler pulley lined up perfectly, but there was no spacers in the kit that would move the compressor 5/8 of an inch forward like it needed to be. So I did have to make those spacers. Like I say, not a huge deal, but this was called a perfect fit kit for small block. And as far as I know, all small blocks with aluminum water pumps, they're all the same in that area. And it was just kind of odd that there wasn't sufficient spacers in there to handle that. But like I said, not a big deal. The only other thing too was there was a couple of mounting brackets for the compressor, like stabilizer brackets or something, that neither one of them fit anywhere. They just didn't fit. I had to make a custom bracket for that, for the back of the compressor to the intake manifold. But all in all, it worked out good and everything's together. And I just want to mention that I did have a problem with the expansion valve, and I had to pull the unit back out from under the dash. And I did the diagnostics, which shows on their website how to diagnose the expansion valve, and it was stuck. It would not move. So I think it was 3 days, and they had a new one here. I did have to put it on myself. Then again, not a big deal really. And then once it was all back together and back in the car and the controls in and charged, we have a heating and AC professional in the family, so he came over and just verified that I wasn't doing anything dumb, and we charged the system. It was a pretty cold day when we did it, so I had to put a small heater in the floorboards of the car and turn that on to get the AC system to recognize that it wasn't cold in the car so that it would come on. But after we did that, it charged fine, no problem. We did have to block the front of the condenser because it was pretty cold out. We couldn't get the pressures to come up like they should be. But once we blocked the air going through the condenser and radiator, the pressures came right up. Thermostat temperature was still 190 like it's supposed to be. So just blocking a little bit of air from the condenser took care of the pressures problem, and everything acted completely normal after that. So the only other thing I wanted to mention was during the process of all of this, that Classic Auto Air was excellent in their support. They were really friendly and patient and helpful. Shipping on the replacement expansion valve was really fast. It was like 3 days, something like that. And yeah, anyway, thanks a lot, Classic Auto Air. I really appreciate your help and your support with this. You know, I really don't think somebody that isn't mechanically inclined can do this. There was just too many little details to have to handle that would be out of the ordinary, I would say. It all works out and everything, but you have to you have to be a little bit functional with tools and kind of knowing what you're doing with them. So I hope this helps anybody that's considering doing this install. Hope it gives you a little bit of an idea what you might be in for. It's really not that bad. It just takes time and quite a bit of patience. I had heard online that there was some issues with their support, but I didn't have any problems with them at all. And anyway, thanks for watching. Hope this helps, and we'll see you on another video.